So here we have the Ninox Aurora, and here's the final mouse 2015. I'm going to do a separate review for this one later. I just have it here for size comparison. As you can see, the Aurora is a very small mouse. I think my camera actually makes it look larger than it is. The overall size doesn't bother me that much, even though the tips of my fingers actually touch the mouse pad in front of the mouse when I'm in palm grip. The only problem with the size that I have is the thinness of it. After a few hours it'll start to cramp my hand. At its widest part, it's the same width as the FK1 is at the middle, which is the thinnest. But despite that, it doesn't cramp my hand nearly as much as the FK1. It's almost usable for me in palm grip. Just after a couple of hours it'll start to cramp. The only reason I can think of that the Aurora would cramp my hand less than the FK1 is that maybe due to the Aurora being straight the whole way, whereas the FK1 goes from wide in the back to thin at the middle and front. Maybe that has something to do with it. So the DPI measurements vary a little bit. On the 1600 setting, it's about 1500, and on the 800 setting, it's about 740 to 765. So there's about like a 25 DPI range, where if you measure over and over, it'll fall somewhere within that range. The cord is a bit heavy and stiff compared to how light the mouse is, but I got used to it pretty quick and it didn't bother me that much. Even though the malfunction speed on this is supposed to be over 3 ms, and this one's only 1.5, this one was actually malfunctioning on me much easier than this. Someone figured out that if you add an extra set of mouse feet, that fixes the problem completely. And there's actually an extra set of mouse feet that come in the box, so that's not too big of a problem. It has a rubberized coating on the top, and then on the sides there's kind of a textured plastic. I had no problems with either the plastic or the top. For both dry hands and sweaty hands, everything was fine. The clicks feel a bit non-clicky, cheap, and stiff. But they're not that bad. Some people were reporting problems that the spaces between the button and the shell differed between button to button, but mine looked pretty much the same. There's a somewhat minor bug when you try to click both of these buttons at the same time for things like rocket jumping and Quake, but I don't play Quake that much, so I'm not affected by that at all. I'll put a link to it in the description. The middle button is too stiff to where when I try to press it, I'll accidentally scroll the wheel. And also, it's too far back so that I can't scroll it with my middle finger. Some people have complained that their scroll wheel doesn't have any noticeable notches, but mine does, and maybe you can hear it. So there are definitely some quality control issues with this mouse. Some people have gotten mice with a few different kinds of problems. As far as the sensor performance goes, it's about on par with the Comb Pure Military, even though it feels a bit different. It's a lot better than Zowie's 3090 mice that I tried. There are no tracking issues on the desktop, and in 3D games it feels a lot less artificially processed than a lot of other recent mice, but it does still feel a little bit off. But I think most people would be fine with it. I think only the most picky people would have issues. I think part of it might have to do with the 25 DPI variants. In comparison with the Comb Pure Military has much better build quality, but this mouse is lighter, and I think the overall shape is a lot better. The weight balance is also better, but it does lack the native 50 DPI increments. I think overall BST did a really good job with this mouse, especially for one guy and his first mouse. I think this is definitely one of the best mice you can buy right now.